Anytime you have an object selected in Adobe Illustrator, you have a slew of tools over here that will allow you to bend it, break it, manipulate it, do anything that you want. You also have something called the Transform panel, which gives you, a more mathematical way of doing some of the features that you can do with those tools. Let's do this. How do we get to it? Come over here, you go to the word Window and go down to Transform, and it'll be here if it's not already open. You can come up here because anytime you have an object selected, if you go to the options bar, it'll be right there for you. Or if you've got the painting workspace like I have, it's actually right there. 3 ways to get to the same panel. Choose the one that's most convenient for you. Let's go ahead and pick it and grab it out of there. And what's it telling us? What's it showing us? Well, number one, if you have an object selected, it's telling you its width and its height, and it's telling you its X and Y values. I'm measuring in pica. Pica is a very universal measuring system. If you're European or Canadian, you're going metric, of course. If in the United States, you're in feet and inches and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to measure in this lesson in pica. It doesn't really matter in terms of what we're doing. Choose your own measuring system. It'll be fine. What do I want to do next? Well, I can change, obviously, the width and the height by going here. I can lock in constrained proportions to make something larger or smaller by changing 1. So if I go in and say 10p, it'll proportionally make it smaller. If I turn that off, I can make this one down here, say 20p, and of course it'll distort it. So we can do that if we want to. Over here, it's measuring its X and Y. Now, X is horizontal and Y is vertical. And where's it measuring from? Well, it's measuring it from the Genesis point. We call it the Genesis point up here, the upper left-hand corner, 0, 0. But where is it measuring it on the object? And that's an important consideration because is it measuring from here? A lot of people think it measures from the upper left, wherever. Right now it is measuring from the upper left because of that button right there. But if I want to measure from center, I can click right here and it will change the numbers. You have the ability to change where it measures your object, and in many cases that's very important. For example, let's say this object right here, and we want to take that object, we want it exactly 1 inch from there to there. It's got to be exactly 1 inch based on our design. I suppose I could look up at the ruler bar and figure it out and kind of drag it over, but I want to do this precise. I want it by the numbers, and the Transform Palette's going to help us out. Number one, I need to move, and you can do this. I need to redefine and move the rulers where the Genesis point is. To do that, it's actually pretty easy. Come up here into this box. There's nothing there. This is where they both connect. Click and drag. Drag that thing right down and it will lock. You'll see it locked to that upper right-hand corner of that box. Let go. You have just changed the 0 value point to there. Now I can use it with the Transform palette. What I want to do is measure from this edge to that edge. So I need to change my Transform option here to the left side. So now it's measuring from the left. X is horizontal. Simply get in here and go 6p to 1 inch and watch what happens. It will move it exactly, precisely 1 inch from the other edge. But the only reason I was able to do that simply is I had the ability to reassign the rulers and where the 0 point was. You want to go back to normal? Double click right up here. I like that feature. That's in all Adobe products, not just Illustrator. So we can change where we measure. We can change the ruler bars. We can change the X and Y. We can change the width and the height. What is left? Well, you will notice this image here can be moved just like any other object. Let's say for the sake of argument that we want these two objects to align right here. And I'll be the first to admit, there's a dozen ways to do that. Not just the way I'm going to show you, but let's zoom in on that area. And again, what I want to do is line these two up. And well, that's not quite enough. Oh, that's a little bit too much. Oh, a little bit. It's hard to do. I'm not saying you're not going to get it, but there have been times, and if you've been using Adobe Illustrator for a long time, I guarantee you there are times you just can't do it, and it's frustrating. So you go to the Align panel or try it some other way. Notice this option down here, it's new. Align to Pixel Grid. What that means is there is a pixel grid. We can't see it. It's like a baseline. I'm going to select both of these objects. Pixel grid alignment is relevant to the object, so you have to select them to change it. I got these two selected. See it move a little bit? It's aligning it to the grids. Watch what happens when I select this one now. I can jump it exactly, and it's right there Align to pixel grid. I love that feature. It's a new feature in CS5. Don't forget you got that one, but you will notice it's off on this one. It is object specific. All right, so we got that out of the way. What's left? Actually, quite a few things. You will notice if you click here, you've got a lot of different options here, like scale, stroke, and effects. That one's important if you're resizing things. For example, if I pick up my star and make it bigger, and we'll just go to a corner and squeeze it. I'm holding the Alt and Shift keys down so I can do it all at the same time. And I come back over here again, you will notice scale, stroke, and effects is none. What that means is that line doesn't get any thicker. If there was an effect in there, it wouldn't change. So you might wind up with an object that's bigger or smaller with a stroke or an effect that's too big or too small. That's when this comes in. You can come over here and click and say scale the strokes and effect. And what that means is if I make this smaller now, the line, the stroke will get smaller with the object. By default, that is not on. And a lot of people get frustrated because they make something smaller and then they got to come over here, say to the stroke area, and change the size of the stroke. It will do it for you automatically if you know where it is. Scale, stroke, and effects. And again, that is not a default item. You also have an item down here called transform. And check this out. I have a pattern here in two boxes. And if I move them apart, you're going to see the pattern. You will notice something about this pattern. The pattern doesn't move. The box moves. Most of the time, maybe 9 out of 10, that's exactly what I want, because no matter where I move it, the pattern is aligning up. And like I said, you probably like that. It's a great little thing. If I come over here and make it smaller, get to a corner, right? Make it smaller. Pattern doesn't get any smaller. They still align up. But what if you want to lock the pattern to the object, or when you resize it, you want the pattern to resize? Again, not as important as the way we've got it now, but there are times when you want that. So you come over here, and I'll do both at the same time. You've got pattern or both. And you will notice now when I move it, the pattern doesn't move. It stays in the box, which means they're no longer lined up. And there are times when you want that. If I make it larger, the pattern actually gets bigger. So remember that option in transform. The default is object only. Most of the time, that's exactly what I want, though. What do we have left? Well, you do have the ability right here to rotate an object by the numbers. Okay, you can choose arbitraries like a 45 and rotate all day long if you want to. Let's do something with this one to end up on transform panel. Let's pick up this box right here. And actually, let's do this. Let's skew it about 60 degrees. Of course, it does that. Let's select it and make sure that we have our fill color selected here. Come over here and make that black. And what we're doing? Well, I'll use my arrow keys to nudge it. I suppose what we're trying to do is make a cast shadow using this button right there. You've got a lot of options in the transform palette. Don't forget those hidden ones, like on the transform or the pattern, or scale, strokes, and effects. Those are very important to controlling your objects. Transform panel's there if you need it.